In this video, today, you're going to discover all the steps to create a realistic animal portrait using colored pencils. Before starting a project, I always take a moment to analyze and really understand my reference. That's why I use my iPad to take measurements and to really understand the geometric shapes that make up the subject. Next, I start transferring it onto my sheet of paper. For this project here, I'm using tinted paper because I know I'll be working with colored pencils. I use geometric shapes that help me easily find the forms of the German Shepherd, and then I compare from left to right, drawing each feature of its face until I achieve a certain likeness. Of course, you do need to have a solid foundation in drawing to be able to do this, but there are techniques that let you quickly find the outline shapes. Next, I have a little correction phase where I compare the drawing I made to my reference on the iPad. If you don't have an iPad, there are other solutions, but it's certain that as you keep practicing drawing, you'll develop your sense of observation, and that will make a huge difference in the success of your drawings. Once the outline lines are finished, it's finally time to apply the colors. I start by picking out 5 or 6 colors, comparing my pencils to my reference on my iPad. I make myself a little sample and write down my numbers, which can always help my students because this project came from one of the classes. Next, I apply my first layer of pencil everywhere. This step takes quite a while because you have to break down the color you see in each area of the German Shepherd for the first time. Having an iPad really helps a lot with this because you can take a color sample on the iPad and use it to compare the right color. However, it's also possible to do it with just a printed paper reference. It's a matter of practice, a matter of work. The goal of this step is really to be able to put the right approximate color there pretty much everywhere. Next, we'll refine our colors, but you have to do it once at first so that in the following steps, you need to think a little less. This step takes some time because the German Shepherd covers the entire page. I really have to put colored pencil everywhere, but I'm not pressing very hard, as you can see. It's really not thick. It's just to tell myself, okay, here it's going to be brown, here it's going to be white, and so on. Next, I'm going to start analyzing in more detail what colors I have on each part of the German Shepherd. And now I'm going to dive in really closely on the details. I'm working on the ear here and there. It's all about the pencil strokes. So each pencil stroke tries to represent a hair and tries to capture the right color. To do work like this, it's necessary to have a very precise, very detailed reference. That way, you can zoom in on your reference as much as possible to really see the placement of each hair. And what will make you successful with colored pencils is really being precise and patient, taking it one pencil stroke at a time to represent exactly what you see. If you like realism, it does require a certain amount of patience. You need to know that because it's really painstaking work that can take many hours. It's important that I mention how long this project takes. All in all, it took me nearly 6 hours to complete this German Shepherd, and you're seeing it in just 5.5 minutes. So you should know that working with colored pencils takes a lot of time, and don't get discouraged if you're just starting out. Obviously, this is a very advanced project, but there are plenty of other much simpler projects where you can practice using colored pencils. For complex projects, I tend to work on the detailed areas first. There's a reason why I did the eyes, the nose, and the collar with a bit more precision. Then I'll move on to the large uniform areas, the fur sections. To do the fur areas, you'll need to go over them many times with several layers of different colors. It might surprise you, but sometimes we introduce all kinds of colors, even in fur that's brown. And here, for example, I added some blue, which will represent reflections, probably from the sky or the surrounding environment. To successfully create a fur texture, you need to use pencil strokes that reflect both the length and direction of the fur, and I'll keep adding more until the pencil layer is opaque enough. That means you have to do many iterations, many layers, to fill the entire area. This same process is repeated over and over again. So once you understand the principle, drawing becomes very meditative, very relaxing, because it's just about continuing in the same direction. Now I'm getting to the muzzle, which is a very dark area, and for that you have to be careful because you might be tempted to just make everything black, but there are still some little highlights, there's still some little hairs showing through, so you have to keep being precise and detailed when applying your pencil. Now that I'm getting close to finishing the drawing, it's time to add the finishing touches by adding a variety of colors. It's rare for fur to be just brown, so we're going to add some purples, some blues, all kinds of shades to give our drawing a bit more saturation and a bit more vibrance. At certain points, I also use a colorless blender pencil to really blend the colors together and create textures that are more pleasing to the eye. Finally, this was the last step. I removed the masking tape from the corner of my drawing, which helped me make a straight line on the German Shepherd's neck. It's a super satisfying moment, and it really gives a finished look when the tape is removed. And there you have it, 6 hours of work, this German Shepherd is finished. I hope you understood all the steps to create a realistic colored pencil drawing, and I encourage you to follow the channel to see more drawing tips. Thank you, everyone.